All right, good evening and welcome to another V Rising showcase. This is going to be our first official actual attempt at speedrunning for competitive purposes. I've actually got our live split up and running for the first bosses in tier 1 that I think are going to be absolutely necessary to attempt to kill within that 30-minute PvP protection window. We are going to be playing on a full loot hardcore solo server tomorrow. It's actually sponsored by Stunlock Studios. Here are all the details right here. We already have them listed, as you can see in this server select screen. So this is going to be launching at 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central. It's got a 2-hour siege window, and the tournament length is going to be only 7 days. They actually have win conditions, which are to bring the unique souls of the 3 N-tier raid bosses back to your base, with Solaris the Immaculate gaining first place. So for this first tournament, they are going to be giving away copies of the DLC for V Rising. First place is the Eldest Bloodlines $30 pack, and second and third place are going to be the DLCs of Dracula Rising, the $10 packs. And then next week, they're going to be resetting, thinking it's going to be actually more competitive after kind of this first week of tournaments. And so next week they've got prize pools with actual money, and apparently it's growing and people are contributing, but the first place is already guaranteed prize of $50. So this is our first and probably only attempt tonight before we get some sleep, so we can be ready for this tomorrow. But as you can see listed, we're going to be trying to knock out the tutorial, Alpha Wolf, build and destroy our base, kill Keely, Errol, Grayson, and Clive. And within that window, we want to do all of that and then go set a base down in an actual strategic location before we begin actually PvPing. So because it is hardcore, we're gonna have to play very carefully and really capitalize on that first minute, the first 30 minutes of playtime, excuse me. So without further ado, we are going to dive into this. So let's go. Additionally, my teammate for the upcoming duos hardcore tournament is going to be tagging along with us. So this is solos practice, and I don't think having a duo is going to really change the strategy. So here we go. All right, we're gonna choose our name. Obviously, So Bad Strange as always. We're gonna push randomize once on the character select like we always do. And then as soon as I hit create, we're gonna go ahead and start this timer. And go. As we have showcased in prior videos, some of the main strategies we're going to be employing for a tournament and a competitive / esports venue is going to be constantly keeping our health, preferably above 90% or higher. We're going to be using salves as often as possible and ensuring that we are in a good state to take a fight if we get in one. I think the Putrid Rat is going to be one of the most important bosses to kill in the early game in order to escape players and to get some early ganks. Picking up a gem there that's actually really big out of that container. Getting a couple of crude gems is going to give us a big upgrade as far as getting a ring or a necklace early game. That's going to have a really nice item level to boost us. One of the things we're going to be working on for speedrunning is trying to decide how fast we need to leave the tutorial and how many bones we actually need. So for this speedrun, guys, we are playing on the locked version of the tournament server, which is a fresh wipe, and obviously it's going to fresh wipe tomorrow before they actually launch into the 10 a.m. So here we're going to go Farbane East and make our way to Alpha Wolf literally as soon as possible. We really want to hit a couple blood roses in order to get that early blood rose ring. But because we're in the locked server tournament, we actually had an admin who's currently watching. He can be invisible up in the sky to make sure no one's cheating. So we are getting to the point where this is going to get very interesting and competitive. I know V Rising just came out, and a lot of you are still enjoying the game. So if you're not looking for those kind of very competitive speedrun videos, you could probably just turn this off now. But we've been theory crafting a lot on how fast you can get to tier 1, out of tier 1 and into tier 2. And it's just exciting to see how far they can go with this game and all the things they can do. We've already seen a lot of private servers that have 8-man clans and 10-man clans, and I don't know, it's literally infinite possibilities. It's basically a micro MMORPG with full loot PvP as an option and castle sieging. So we do want to kill and suck on the blood of a creature about as early as we can, just so we can get the movement speed bonus from the wolves. We're probably going to need to get a little bit more bone before we leave the tutorial, as we're not going to have enough for our bone mace here. And excuse me, I forgot to stop the split. So it's a little bit later than it was. It was probably more like minute 3 that we got out of that. I see. Also, unfortunately, I've given Streamlabs admin permissions that have overwritten Livesplit. So each time I split the times, unfortunately for this run, we're going to switch to a different starter screen, and then I'll just switch back as fast as possible. So we're probably going to lose a minute or two just doing administrative things, but we'll hopefully get that taken care of in the next speedrun video. I think the biggest part about getting out of the tutorial early and getting things taken care of is going to be the availability of Alpha Wolf, right? On a 40 to 60 player solo server, all of those players are going to be attempting to kill Alpha Wolf, and we don't want to be waiting around for a respawn. So here we're going to swing through the infested graveyard just because we need those extra those extra 20 bones that we missed from leaving the tutorial a bit too soon. There's also a couple skeletons outside the tutorial that might be easier for us to hit. We also are thinking that if the server gets really popular and it's genuinely packed at weekly reset, there's a locked chest over here, and that's not really part of the speedrun, but it's just interesting to me that we have a chest this early that's locked, so I'm going to get that. I'm pretty sure we have a good chance of getting some interesting items like a schematic. Obviously a Merciless piece of gear early in the game is going to give you a 3 eye level boost over other players. So there's going to be a bit of RNG in the runs. Also, we don't have every boss listed here that I thought would be interesting to kill, because I think killing Lydia, the Chaos Archer, to get Chaos Volley is going to be extremely important for PvP, but we don't have her listed. It would be nice to run into her if she's patrolling Copper Mine, but the likelihood of that happening I think is low. So we did pick up another gem as well as some copper ore. That's going to be really important. Getting the copper weapon early is going to be the most important part of speedrunning. you're going to be able to kill players who don't have copper really easy. So now we've arrived at Alpha Wolf. We're 7 minutes in. I think this is a bit slow so far, but we are going to try to cut it down every time. The most important part is going to be killing the boss at Copper Mine. Copper Mine is going to be a PvP nightmare and a hotspot on the full loot servers. You're definitely going to have players sitting as rats, waiting to kill people all the time there. And same thing with Sulfur Mine, because Clive the Firestarter is an insane boss fight early game, and it takes forever. The sun is a big issue in that region. I also forgot to make salves, guys, so this isn't definitely not a perfect run, but this is what we're looking for, and this is why we're doing this. Making room for improvement is a big part of this practice, and it does get us ready for that next level tournament play. So there we have it. Eight minutes, Alpha Wolf. Obviously, with the other player here, they're going to be able to steal your loot this early in the game. We also need blood, right? So we should have drained a creature early. We actually cannot heal ourselves right now. I guess we'll take some Vermin Salve, and we'll get that going. Another very important part about Vermin Salve is the ability to use it in PvP and in combat, and it will continue healing you until you take damage. So, right, we've crafted our first Vermin Salve. We pop it, we go Wolf Form, and now we can actively move around the map and farm while gaining health over time. I believe Keely is up here. We also have a really, really good rush strat for Keely, which is going to be... So a lot of the bosses, and we've seen players mention this all over the Discord, all over the forums, and even my own YouTube videos, is that a lot of these bosses can be killed in very unique and interesting ways, especially at low level. And so for Keely, she has surrounded herself with trapped animals like bears and wolves. And so we're going to want to let those out, and those are going to both fight the boss and other players and the ads. So you can really use the environment to your advantage. We also, I thought we wanted to build and destroy a base really fast. So I think that would just give us a massive eye level advantage, but to be honest, I don't know if we need it. I think we might just straight go for some more bosses, and maybe we'll put it down in a little bit when we have more resources that we get, because you're going to want to be hitting all these chests, right? All these chests, all these barrels, these are going to drop things that you don't have to actively farm. And so now we're pulling the whole camp, right? We want to pull as much stuff as possible here while also obviously avoiding the sunlight. So here comes the bear. Bad start there with the sun. We got trapped in the sun there. That could actually end our run early. That would be very, very bad here if we died. But just getting all these animals out and about is going to cause enough chaos and enough loot drops to make it definitely worth your time. Oh, that was almost so bad. We need a kite here. This could be bad. This could be the end. We were one shot. Counter. We don't get the counter off. Nothing attacked us in time. God, the sun is brutal right now. Missing our counter again. We're not getting health back, and we're dead. So that is a really bad start for the run. We're also going to drop our entire inventory on death here. So we need to be much, much more careful on the next go around. Thankfully, the waygate is really close, and hopefully in the official tournament setting, we would be able to get back to that loot, right? We have to assume that a large portion of players that are going to be playing in the tournament are competitive, probably beta players who have already conquered their official PvP servers. So they're coming here to really, you know, test their mettle and their own strategies. But I think a lot of players are going to be building a base early in the first 30 minutes. And so by coming out and killing all the bosses, we're giving ourselves a nice edge. We won't have to fight over these bosses later. And so hopefully there's no other players here. So if you do die, you have a chance to get your loot back. As you can see though, I actually kind of forgot how hardcore works, and so we actually don't have any of our armor or weapons right now, so we have to loot ourselves.
Let me cool you off.
If another player came, honestly, you would be so far behind if all of your stuff was looted. So alright, now we're back. So far to me, this fight seems at least moderately challenging. We might actually need to put that base down and get to level 20 before we engage here. There's also 2 bears over here that we forgot to let out, so there's a lot we can improve on with the initial Keeley push. Definitely one of the easier boss fights. You can see why I wanted to, I mean, obviously we died from the ads and whatnot, but overall the boss itself, she has very little abilities. She's got the triple shot, easily counterable. I believe you can counter all 3 of them by standing in front of her. And then she has that AoE freeze, which she always does around herself. Very easy to dodge. Alright, so Keeley is done as well. So we're halfway through the time and not quite halfway through the bosses. I still think we're making really good time compared to where other players will be. All of this stuff that we're picking up, we're getting actually finished leather. That's going to get us into our next set really fast, which is kind of why I thought it would be nice to delay setting the base down. I'm going to continue with the strategy of waiting on the base, especially because we only have 15 minutes left, and I really cannot stress enough how important it is that we kill the copper mine boss and get as much copper as humanly possible. Fire archers, massive danger early game. It's going to be very important, especially on the tournament server. We didn't go into all the detailed rule sets of it, but on the tournament server, you actually can get an extra 2 servants per tier of your castle hearts. So that's going to give the solo players a bit more of a chance to defend themselves and to make interesting plays with the servants. I think a lot of players in the population, including myself, have been underutilizing servants. I think both as a defense and to be able to give them gear that you loot off other dead players. That way when you die, you can just take all of the servants' gear and wear it yourself. You can also send them out on missions when you don't have the siege window active, right? That 2-hour siege window. You can have them out gathering tons of really early beginning game mats for you. So here we're at the Forgotten Cemetery. This is going to be important later because we really do want to kill Nikolaus the Forgotten, or the Fallen. because I feel like Ward of the Damned is a incredible PvP and PvE ability. One of the best in the games, and in fact I use that in my T3 level 82 build. But he's really hard and very time consuming, and the likelihood of being ganked up there is going to be insanely high because players around him, the players around this Forgotten Cemetery mountain can see the range of his AoE. He shoots green bolts everywhere, and he's constantly yelling things, right? And it's a big area that he's in, so the likelihood of getting ganked up there is really, really high. So I think we want to wait to get iron weapons and then come back and kill Nikolaus. So we want to be way above eye level for that one, whereas a lot of these other bosses I think are easy enough and simple enough that we can do it early game without worrying too much about gear. Again, we're being a little bit slow. We wanted to get as much blood rose as possible, right? We wanted that 13 blood rose. So far we only have 10, so we do need to hit 2 more flowers if we can. But we're 17 minutes in. We're making, honestly, insane time. We kill Coppermine here, and then we, I think we skip Errol, because a lot of players probably aren't going to be doing that early game. We skip Errol, and we go... I know it's weird, right? I think we go Clive. We try to fight him early and use the dynamite there to do a big damage to him while just kind of kiting in a large circle. Also, maybe other players are there early. That was a 27% creature. We should have drank that. Maybe if players are at Clive, you can actually work together if all of you have PvP protections. And of course, as we showcased in our PvP solo fresh wipe on the duo server, you can always drop your PvP flag early to get an easy gank and absorb someone's inventory. And so, especially at the end of our timer when we only have 1 or 2 minutes left, it might be a really, really amazing strategy to do that. So we're actually getting hit by his frost AoE there, which is really interesting, and I genuinely think actually now that that's kind of showcasing here from our future teammate that I actually believe Frostbat is probably a better ability to run with early game. It gives you two actual bolts. I think we're gonna head into the mine after we heal a little bit. So that was really smart of him to switch to Frostbat. I think we're gonna roll with that as well. We could also get lucky drops here, right? We could get some sort of weapon that's upgraded. I think these drop, not copper, but some sort of enhanced bone weapon that would be 3 extra gear score, which would really help us beat this boss and Clive. The important part is going to be setting your base down probably before your protection ends.
I'll handle you myself.
Oof, big hits there. That is bad. We got to stay away from this boss. I'm really excited for our next speed run. I already feel like we can do this way faster and with less deaths. I am very tired, guys. After this video, I'm for sure gonna go to sleep and prep for the launch of that PvP server, the full loot tournament. So you can see I'm missing a lot of abilities. I'm not getting nearly as many counters as I could be getting off. So this is our first actual attempt at a speedrun, so we're going to be beating this very fast. And we'll also be running the speedrun counter tomorrow and recording our entire first couple hours, more than likely, if not the entire week, and then trying to clip it for really important PvP, ganks, and sieges. The win conditions is to have those soul shards of the final 3 bosses. And so what you're going to have is, especially the last day of the tournament, that Friday night is going to be nothing but public sieges. People are going to be dropping golems left and right. I don't know how you're going to get those soul shards back to your base, right? Because players are going to be able to see them on the map. You're going to be moving slow and dealing reduced damage. It's going to just be really intense. I think they chose a wonderful rule set for our first ever kind of official, sponsored tournament. And this is really setting the foundations of what's to come. And I think a lot of servers are trying to do that. They're trying to find what a good rule set is. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here and what would change in the coming weeks based on player feedback. So there we go. 23 minutes. Unfortunately, I skipped the build destroy base phase, but that's all right. So actually, his explosion did not kill the copper ore. That usually destroys all resources, but his explosion is based on our eye level. And so we will definitely need to set down a base before fighting Grayson. Or excuse me, Errol. We would also want to get all of this copper. Getting copper early and getting that copper weapon is going to be insanely important. So this was a really good learning experience. We should absolutely drop that base early just to get into the upgraded tier set and then destroy the base. That way we don't have to come back to it later. On this server, this hardcore tournament server, each solo player will only have 1 castle heart. That means moving your castle is going to be the most dangerous time in your life. You will have all the best mats on you, and probably later in the game it's going to be impossible. And I really like that. It means choosing a castle location early is going to affect the entire week of your runs. So we've been theorizing on some places, and I don't think we're going to be able to get there today in this 30-minute run. But you'll for sure see it tomorrow when I release the video of the, the first hour of launch or whatever it may be. But we're going to try to go kill Clive anyway. I think we'll set down a base at Clive and destroy it, because Clive is going to be a higher eye level and much harder. So we're running very low on time here. We have 5 minutes to kind of finish our run. We're for sure going to skip Grayson, the armorer. We wanted him for the whetstone recipe, but with this kind of time, you're going to have to cut corners. Also, you guys, please feel free to like and comment on this video. Let me know what kind of skips you guys have already been theory crafting. Is this a fast time? What do you think? I'm feeling like with an actual good run and practice, we could be into the T2 Iron Mine within an hour. We kill Clive, we get a bomb, we kill Bandit King, we're T2. That's immense. I'm not sure if any other players are doing speedruns yet, but if they are, please post it to me. I'd love to see someone else's run. I'm sure we're going to get a crazy speedrunning community going around this game. The idea of killing the raid bosses, I mean, honestly, you could kill them at a really low eye level if you're just a god of iframing and you have the right ability setups. I'm still having trouble with the raid bosses. I'm still wiping at level 82, but I'm sure there's people out there that have tried to tackle them at level 60. And on a server like this, where the win condition is to have them, I think it's going to be easier to get them from the raid bosses than it is to publicly siege someone and take them home at a negative 15% movement speed and a negative 25% damage increase, or I guess plus 25% damage increase to you. No vampire powers, no mounts, no cave passages. That is going to be deadly. I went the wrong way. I'm sure that doesn't, that probably doesn't help the run at all. 3.5 minutes here. At this point, I think someone else must go to Clive, even if they haven't done all the bosses we have. So if your PvP protection timer falls off at Clive, I think that might be the end. It's just such a dangerous boss. It's really hard to keep your health high there. There's way too much AoEs. There's too many patrols. There's too much RNG elements to it. So here we are at 27 minutes. I'm going to set the base down. I'm going to try to eye level up to maybe 18 or 20. And then we're going to have to be ready for PvP. We can still set the base down and craft and destroy it, or we can leave it there since we're going to be right here anyway. It might be useful to come back and start crafting or build like a crappy little base just to get into a copper gear set and then leave. Although obviously right here we don't have copper, but in the future we would have copper at this point. Ironically, we never made our mace, so we're actually a bit behind the curve. But this 30-minute speed run is average, I want to say. We were setting a good pace when we arrived at Keeley, but that death obviously set us back immensely. And then I think not putting down the base early enough to craft ourselves up to level 20, I think we would save a lot of time fighting those bosses. So I'm really glad we did this. I think this will prepare us a lot for tomorrow when it's live. Also tomorrow, I think it's going to be important that as we're moving to certain bosses or fighting certain bosses, you're standing next to resources so you can be hitting the creatures and the boss while simultaneously gathering these resources. Because we don't want to actually waste time hitting trees if we could have already been doing this. So there is just an intense amount of ways you can cut corners. It would have also been nice if we were able to somehow get 8 planks. I don't know how that would happen. Maybe you could come across a player and drop your PvP protection and kill them as they're trying to build their base. Or you would just be looting it from those barrels, crates, and chests. A lot of that stuff was RNG. Obviously, we got a locked box, and we had a couple chests across those points of interest. But we really want to be trying to dry loot those areas. So thinking about the time that we lost in the death and some of the little corners that we can skip, I believe it's very possible to get all the way to Clive within that 30-minute window, and then you're going to be spending the next probably 20 minutes making your base, figuring things out, and I'm talking about your real base, right? Because we would have already wanted to put down this basic base earlier, and then since we would get level 18, 21, something along that nature, we would save time when fighting all those bosses, and we would be getting copper. And so right at that 30-minute mark, we would want to have the base, the first tiny base for the workstation, built and destroyed, and had killed all these bosses on the list. Except maybe Grayson. I think we are going to put that on skip. And then right as your protection's falling off, you're finished with Clive, you can make a bomb, and you're going to go put down your real base. And we're going to be talking about that a lot tomorrow as well. Probably as we're playing. The strategic locations for your base on a hardcore solo server, right? Because like I said, you really only have one chance. Moving your base is going to be deadly and time consuming, and you have a limited amount of inventory slots, so you're gonna have to leave a lot of loot behind if you want to move your base. So trying to decide on that genuinely strategic competitive tournament location for your sort of permanent, possibly forever base is going to be vital. Alright, we finally have enough for a sawmill, plus probably enough wood to actually get these planks going. So for the 8 planks, we're going to need 160 wood. We have obviously way more than enough. And while we wait for that to finish, I think you just grind. I think you just grind resources. You probably try to get a second sawmill up and running as soon as possible because you're going to need those planks for the tannery as well, and then you're going to want to get the hide turning into leather ASAP. So I really genuinely believe that in the first probably 40 minutes of your lifespan, you will be somewhere around level 38 with copper weapons, a full set of leather armor. You're essentially ready to roll into tier 2, and at that 40-minute mark, a lot of players might not have killed any bosses. They might have just put their base down. And getting ahead early in hardcore is the most important part of that sort of Iron Man, dead man mode aspect. Because ganking players and getting their entire inventory and gear is just going to save you an insane amount of time. It's hard to even figure out how much time you'd be saving, right? But here we are 35 minutes in and we barely have enough resources to get the base going. So if we killed someone right about now or soon that's in the same place as us, we just literally double. We're twice as far ahead as any other player. So we do have extra lumber and stone. I think we do duplicate, like we do an 4x4 here. And we get 2 sawmills up and running. The issue, I think, with the only issue I see here is that we would need more wood. We would probably close ourselves in here. We would probably have to fully wall this off, only because offhandedly a player might come along who has PvP protection timer and they might just steal all your loot, right? Because you can't assume every player is going to start at the same time. Some players are going to be coming in a couple minutes late, a couple hours late, you know, trickling in throughout the day. And so you definitely would want to enclose this. That would also be devastating to your run if you were grabbing trees and a PvP protected player ran over and just looted all your sawmills. They could also, I'm pretty sure, since you can destroy someone's castle, I think they could actually take all the blood out of your castle heart and then click destroy. And because it's a level 1 tiny heart, it would be in decay and they would freely destroy your castle. So then you would have to spend even more resources and you would have probably no blood. So there's a lot of little weird tricks that people are going to do to try to rat and get all your stuff in the hardcore mode. And that's why I'm so excited for this very first sponsored tournament, to really see what players are capable of. What have they learned in the last couple days? All right, so we now have enough for our workbench. We're 37 minutes in, a little bit over time, but I think we're going to have a big come up here. So we take the sword. I really like the early sword. I don't know why. I feel like it does more than other weapons. I haven't really tested it all the way yet. So we can actually skip past plated bone guard here because we got leather as drops. So if we got even more leather as drops, we could essentially skip even putting down our tannery. And you really don't need that much for the Night Stalker set. So you only need 24 leather, so and 16 thread. So we barely missed the availability to have an entire set here. So we might, you know, with full looting those POIs better and not dying at Keeley, also being the only player there, more than likely we would be getting a lot of extra loot, maybe double what we have. We could essentially skip all the way into Night Stalker gear. But for now, we're going to do 1 Night Stalker and 3 plated. That's going to take some time, so ideally you would be farming right now as well. And then rather than actually kill Clive, I think we'll just end the video after we put our set of gear on, just so we can see, you know, what level we actually get to. We also screwed up and we forgot to get that extra 10 blood rose. So on launch, on tournament, we will be rested and ready to go, fully alert with coffee in our system instead of it being midnight. But I'm just curious to see what eye level we end up at after we get that full set, which should be, hopefully, within the first 30 minutes of gameplay. Keep in mind, you're going to be a skull to a lot of players. Tons of players are going to be afraid of you if you get into your full set of gear off your workstation in that first 30 to 40 minutes. There also doesn't appear to be any blood roses anywhere all of a sudden now that we need them, when realistically they're almost always everywhere. You also really want to be hard gathering these at every opportunity, because the blood rose potions in PvP is going to save your life. And we'll be talking about all that tomorrow as well if we actually get a lot of PvP. Between your frostbats and your shadow bolts, you're going to be wanting to use salves, right? You're going to want to be getting health back. That way you can just outplay the other player. So here we go. We're in our basically full set, and we're level 16. Chris is level 20. I think we forgot to grab... Okay, we forgot to wear our chest. So yeah, I can't. I'm tunnel visioning right now. I can't figure it out. We're level 18, so Chris played better than us. He got more drops. And so now you would be going to Clive the Firestarter. Also, remember, if we had done this before Copper Mine, we would now have a lot of copper. And so we would actually be, hopefully, able to craft, maybe by getting a couple ingots or building a furnace, that copper weapon. And look at this upgrade. We are only at, you know what, I forgot to put my other weapon on, so we're actually 21. But if you get that copper, right, you're level 24, you are definitely a skull to new players, and you're fighting Clive the Firestarter, preferably within the first 30 minutes, and going hard. Look at all this copper he got, right? So you would build that furnace, you would have your copper weapon. Look at 418 ore he picked up, or between the two of us he picked up. I mean, obviously he's got ingots as well, so like if Chris playing tomorrow is playing like he's playing right now, that's the kind of player we want to be careful of. That's the kind of player that's going to be fighting us. But more than likely, both of us are going to be ahead of a vast portion of that tournament population. But yeah, you would get the furnace down, you would be burning all your ore, right? And so in that 30-minute window, playing like a god, you are going to be upwards of level 24 to 28. Also, if you got schematics and you built the research station, you could possibly be upgrading into the next ring. Here also we can make the Gravedigger ring if we just picked up some flowers at Forgotten Cemetery and a little bit of grave dust off skeletons. So there are so many skips and so much powerful potential here. We could easily have +6 item level and a copper weapon. Now the copper weapon is going to be the absolute key to PvP. Having your Q ability, right? Your mace slam, your copper spear kind of CC stun damaging ability, and the dash forward with the axe, the whirlwind with the sword is just going to give you an insane edge. So with this practice, guys, 42 minutes here for base level 21 fighting Clive. We're going to try to cut that down to 30 minutes. We're getting better every single time. I'll see you tomorrow for the V Rising sponsored tournament series. Please like, subscribe, and rate as always. Drop some comments, questions, and video suggestions, and we'll see you next time.